this point. So if it's a good time, I'd like to call the Governor's Workforce Development Board Employer Engagement and Economic Development Subcommittee to order on November 21st, 2025. For the record, my name is Dennis Perea. I chair this committee. Tiffany, will you please take roll?
Yes. Okay, Chair Perea.
Here.
Vice Chair Goodrich. Lou DeSalvio. Vice Chair Estepona.
Here.
George Galt.
Here.
Paul Kaplan. Tony Maccabee.
Here.
Andrew McKay.
Present.
Janelle Thomas.
Present.
Mike Yoder.
Present.
Irene Bustamante Adams. She did say she was running a little late, so we'll call on her after. David Schmidt.
Here.
Elaine Silverstone.
Hi, I'm here. Happy to be with you.
Good morning. Milt Stewart.
Present.
And Jap Sutich. Sutich?
Here.
Okay.
Jeff Sutich.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany Vasquez, Office of Workforce Innovation, for the record. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum.
Thanks, Tiffany. And I'd like to remind everybody to identify yourself before speaking and make life easy on Tiffany for the note taking. Do we have any public comment on the phone, or do you see anything out there, Tiffany?
No.
So we'll move on to agenda item number 4 for possible action. Is there a motion? Has everybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes? And do we have any comment, or would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion by Ken. Do we have a second?
Tony Maccabee will second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Agenda item number 5. It's been a while, Milt, but I'm glad to see that you're still in the game, and I appreciate you volunteering to be on this committee. And I think that you kind of got the skinny, but a part of the discussions that we were having early on in our first couple of meetings is how do we get this information out to the employers and the employer community, and how can the local boards help us? And in doing so, and with you guys being the key to the workforce system in the local level, we'd appreciate your insight on this.
Hey, good morning. Milt Stewart for the record. Thanks. Good seeing you again, Dennis. I'm really grateful to be part of this conversation. Yeah, one of the things I think that bubbled up through these initial conversations was, we definitely as a system need to make sure that we're engaging with employers, but also being mindful of the work that's already happening, right? And I believe Irene and her team presented to you folks, and so just give you a flavor of what we're doing here in Northern Nevada. The work that's already being done. So then we can have conversations about how do we leverage that existing work, and then how do we supplement it? How do we support it? How does this organization really help us strengthen that? And so we're doing a lot of good work in multiple different areas. I'm going to introduce Ryan Hogan. He's our industry engagement specialist. And so he's got a presentation that he's going to go through. I may jump in here and there, but Ryan, if you want to introduce yourself and then start the presentation, please.
Sure. Thank you, Milt. Greetings, everybody. My name is Ryan Hogan, Industry Engagement Specialist for Nevada Works. Super grateful to be here and be a part of this conversation. So I don't know if Tiffany has the presentation up or can share.
Okay, hold on one moment, okay? Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that.
You're good. Perfect. Yeah, so again, Ryan Hogan with Nevada Works, leading our industry engagement efforts. Again, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share some of the work that we've been doing. I'm certain not everybody needs a refresher on Nevada Works and what we do, but that's where I'm going to go ahead and start. The Nevada Works mission reads to provide the best workforce solutions fulfilling needs for employers and career seekers. That's our mission for the Northern 13 counties. We have two primary customers, career seekers and employers. We look to assist career seekers to access training, career guidance, and supportive or wraparound services. And our employer partners, we look to support their recruitment and retention strategies, access to training and upskilling, and be their link to the workforce system. Our service area is the Northern 13 counties of Nevada, spanning over 70,000 square miles, making us one of the largest workforce development regions in the country. Our service area is home to over 700,000 Nevadans. So as we look at employer engagement in Northern Nevada, there's three key points that I'd like to emphasize. First, Northern Nevada is experiencing one of the most accelerated economic expansion periods in our modern history. This is creating both pressure and opportunity for the workforce system. Second, aligning talent pipelines with employer demand begins with meaningful ongoing industry engagement. We can't build responsive programs and training pathways without the employers at the table. They need to help us understand skills needs, training gaps, and future workforce demands. And third, Nevada Works is driving coordinated regional efforts to strengthen and expand employer engagement and system connectivity. We're serving as the backbone organization, working to bring the workforce system together so employers experience a coordinated, unified workforce system. These three factors, economic growth, employer-informed strategies, and coordinated leadership, are what's shaping our approach to employer engagement. So before we talk about what Nevada Works is doing to strengthen employer engagement, it's important to acknowledge that there's already a tremendous amount of activity happening across Northern Nevada. Northern Nevada's economy continues to diversify, creating new demand for coordinated employer engagement. Numerous agencies and partners are actively engaging employers across sectors, often with overlapping goals. So as you can see from the diagram there, there are several organizations having conversations with employers, often simultaneously and often working toward the same end. The challenge isn't necessarily the lack of engagement, it's coordinating it, aligning it, and making access easy for employers. What we're seeing is outreach happening from many directions when what's needed for the system is more cohesion and less duplication. So this is the engagement challenge. These seem to be the most consistent barriers to getting employers to the table, at least in my experience. So employers often having shifting priorities, limited bandwidth. Engagement tends to spike only when needs arise, so hiring surges, expansions, training gaps, etc. This reactive participation makes long-term workforce planning very difficult, and a more structured, predictable model is needed to maintain consistent industry feedback and insights. I'm sure some of you can see where I'm going with this now. Next slide. So challenge accepted. Our solution to the engagement challenge is the industry sector partnership model. ISPs utilize a nationally recognized model to convene industry in the workforce system. It aligns employer needs with training, workforce initiatives, and wraparound services. Nevada Works has launched ISPs based on regional labor market data, employer input, and future growth forecasts. ISPs create a single point of entry for employers to access Nevada's workforce system. I say this a lot, but the true value proposition for the industry sector partnership model is it allows for employers to have a single conversation with several stakeholders rather than several conversations with individual stakeholders, if that makes sense. Next slide. So Nevada Works launched our industry sector partnership model with a focus on 4 key industries in Northern Nevada, those being advanced manufacturing, logistics and transportation, healthcare, and digital technology. Next slide. Thank you. Of course, these sectors weren't chosen randomly. There were some key considerations to factor: strong current employer demand, high growth projections in Northern Nevada, opportunities to identify training and skills gaps, high wages, high impact occupations, and alignment with state priorities and economic development strategies, just to name a few.
Ryan, if I can
So-
jump in real quick, just
Of
for
course.
clarification around how those were selected. Those 4 industry sectors were selected in partnership with GOED. So Nevada Works, when we were developing our proposal for the Good Jobs Challenge, we were specifically asked to identify high growth industries. That was part of the notice of funding opportunity. At that time, we reached out to GOED and asked them, which are the most high growth with the opportunities for good jobs, but with the definition being paying the market rate, with vacation and benefits and those types of things. And so through conversations with GOED, that's how those were selected. And I point that out because we weren't able to do every industry sector, right? So I just want to be clear, and Ryan's going to really illustrate this in just a moment here. Those are not the only 4 sectors that we're focused on, right? So it's really important to me that this committee doesn't walk away thinking, oh, they're only working these 4 sectors. Ryan's going to in a minute introduce another sector. We've been talking to Jeff Sudich. Jeff's been on our board in his previous capacity at Northern Nevada Development Authority. In his new capacity at Nevada Builders Alliance, we want to stand up a construction industry. But just want to be clear to everyone, we're not solely focused on those, and the decisions were rooted in a partnership and collaboration with GOED.
Terrific. Thank you for that, Milt. So on October 24th, we held our most recent industry sector partnership meeting. We branded this particular event Nevada Works Together. It was a full-day event, full-day event of ISP meetings, workforce conversations, and programmatic updates. A little different than what we've held in the past. We were able to secure the Reno Sparks Convention Center as a venue. We had guest speakers, plenary discussions. It looked and felt much, I guess you could say, bigger than past events. Just kind of a look at the day. We had a terrific turnout, really great participation from both stakeholders and employers. By the end of the day, it was pretty clear that our employers want to stay connected and continue to collaborate. Just a brief rundown of the events. In addition to the 3 industry sector partnership convenings, we also invited Stephen Wood from GOED to deliver a presentation on state strategies for workforce and economic development. We had our own, Nevada Works' own Cheryl Olson present on apprenticeship. Cindy Kendall from Employee NV spoke to programmatic, gave a programmatic overview of the Silver State Works initiatives. We also had an employer panel highlighting earn while you learn models. And then we had simultaneously with each individual ISP session, we had a second room for career navigator and employee NV business services account manager panels to give our employers kind of an idea of what these roles do, how they contribute to the workforce system, and how they can take advantage of those relationships. Some highlights from the event: our tribal engagement well exceeded anything we had ever seen before. 16 tribal members attended, representing several Native nations across Northern Nevada. Throughout the entire course of the day, we heard conversations amongst employers talking about their experience plugging into the system, kind of being a champion, if you will, of our initiatives and our work, which was, I think, kind of speaks to the partnerships that we're developing. And then through post-meeting surveys, we learned that many of our employers had some new key insights that they took away from the day and intend to engage with the system within the next 6 months. So with Northern Nevada becoming kind of a national hub for the clean energy transition, it made a lot of sense for us to expand our ISP initiative into this sector, which is what we did on October 9th. The Lithium Battery Life Cycle Industry Sector Partnership was formed to align workforce partners around this emerging ecosystem. Some goals for the day were to understand cross-cutting occupations, address specialized training needs, support rapid industry scaling, and modernize the perception of this critical industry in our region. All said, the day was a success. We received letters of commitment from each of the employers in attendance that day, I think demonstrating the value that they saw in the meeting and setting us up nicely for future productive convenings. So building a strong system through partnership and collaboration to build a system that works, that's effective for employers and career seekers, aligning across partners is essential. We partner with organizations and institutions across the system in different capacities to create efficiency, reduce duplication, build stronger talent pipelines, and provide better outcomes for the region. This diagram is just meant to highlight some of those partnerships and offer kind of a high-level understanding of what we're trying to accomplish within them. So, of course, DETR, lead state workforce agency that advances and strengthens Nevada's workforce infrastructure. Employee NV Business Hub, strong collaboration supporting industry engagement efforts. Nevada Works, of course, as the workforce board, kind of being the backbone organizer for the system in Northern Nevada. The Governor's Board develops the WIOA strategies for the state of Nevada and provides guidance and support to the workforce system. Nevada Tech Hub, forward-thinking partnerships supporting outreach strategy in emerging tech fields. And education and training providers collaborate to align education with real-time data-informed employer needs. And I would be remiss to not mention here with education and training providers that that is obviously not isolated to our institutions of higher education, but also our training providers from the ETPL that we work closely with. Real employer wins. One of the most powerful parts of our October 24th event was hearing directly from employers who have successfully plugged into the workforce system. We had an employer panel featuring 3 regional employers here. Katy Electric highlighted the Silver State Works program, their on-the-job training program. Chromalloy in Carson City, Nevada, took advantage of the incumbent worker training program. And Dragonfly Energy here in Reno partnered with TNCC on a customized training solutions for their on-floor management team. The takeaway here, honestly, from this session was meaningful things happen when you lean into the system. It was impactful to employers throughout the room. So with the goal in mind of strengthening employer engagement across Nevada, there's a few things I might ask of this board here today. First, to help promote a consistent statewide message about the value of employer engagement, industry sector partnership meetings, and available workforce resources to reduce confusion and create a clear point of entry. Second, to serve as industry ambassadors by using board members' networks and credibility to encourage peer employers to participate and champion the workforce system. Third, elevate employer success stories to state and regional levels to demonstrate impact, build trust, and motivate additional employers to engage. And finally, support strategic workforce priorities to ensure ISP efforts align with high demand sectors and statewide economic development goals, reinforcing employer confidence and system alignment. That's it. That's my big ask. I'm confident that with your support, we'll be able to facilitate further employer engagement for the workforce system. So,
hey, Ryan,
finally,
could you go back that one slide to that and that first bullet point on that last slide?
Sure. Yeah.
So I can wait till the end if you would prefer, but this has actually been I don't want to parrot Ken, but this has been an issue since the beginning of time with the workforce system where, and I have to take ownership of part of that, where we had, we had an employee at one point that had a business card with 9 brands on it and whatnot of the workforce system. And here in a little bit, we're going to be hearing from Elaine about the WIN program at GoEd. And we've talked to the Department of Education about the curriculum development. And this is such a critical part because of the confusion that you're talking about. Does this committee and does the governor's board have a role in trying to reduce that confusion and branding and everything else, or has that been taken care of? Because it looks like employee NV is doing a lot more than it used to. But I think you know what I'm asking here. How do we act that single point of entry where an employer such as Ken or one of these business partners could walk in and say, you know, I need to do this and get an answer in that single point of entry. And I know that's pie in the sky thinking, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Right, if you don't mind, if I can jump in, Milt Stewart for the record, if that's okay with you, Dennis. Yes, and I'm gonna point back to, you know, one of the, you know, and a little bit of self-deprecation there. Maybe it's, you know, I was part of the challenge. You stated that, and the reality is, if you remember, when you were, you know, involved in the system, we couldn't market, we couldn't spend money on you know, so that was the biggest frustration. It was, you know, we continue to hear this is the best kept secret, right? And there were so many limitations or perceived limitations on expending dollars on, you know, marketing. Quite frankly, was a 4-letter word. It's like, you know, we would find ourselves, the collective, we would find ourselves. If we started to say marketing, we'd say, oh no, we mean outreach, because marketing, you know, we couldn't do that. And there was just all these real and perceived limitations around getting the story out, right? Around making sure that everybody understand what the public workforce development system is doing. And so over time, and really within the last 3 or 4 years, as we started to develop, you know, the local boards in collaboration with Dieter and other partners, really started to develop and lean into this employee NV system, right? And so, you know, really what the intent there is, and we're starting to, you know, gain some traction, and I'll get to some things that are happening in just a moment here, but really starting to gain some traction around how do we present ourselves as a system. So I'll give you a story. John Pearl from Dieter, I went to him when I first became CEO, and I said, look, Nevada Works as a local board, we can hire our own business services reps. We have the resource. I mean, we're allowed to, but we don't really have the resources to, right? We don't get a ton of WEO money. And Dieter, your business services reps are already doing it. So let's work together. I'm not going to hire any business services reps if you can align with the work that we're doing. And we made that arrangement. And so my head got put down a little bit. We were working on the Good Jobs Challenge grant. And as mentioned before, we identified these 4 sectors, and they didn't perfectly align with the structure that Dieter had, the business services folks had. And so when I finally was able to come up for some air, I reached out to John and I said, hey, let's talk about aligning the sectors. And he said, we already did. We've already done it. And that's when I knew this was going to work, because I didn't have to have that specific conversation. I was able to say, you know, he actually leaned right into that. Yeah, Ken, if you want to go ahead.
Oh, I was going to wait till you're finished.
Okay. So no worries. So at any rate, so long story short, we've really leaned into this model here in Northern Nevada, where we're relying on the employee NV business hubs and that structure and model and the relationships that they built, not only to help inform just employer engagement in general, but also for our industry sector partnerships. And so folks like Cindy and her team that we've woven into and really work as a team. And I say all that to say this, that there's always room for improvement. No matter what it is that we're doing, there's always room for improvement. I happen to believe that, and the day that I don't believe that is the day that I need to hang this up and do something else. And so we're continually trying to strive for that improvement. But with regards to that statewide messaging, I'll share with you that right now the local boards in Dieter are having some very intense conversations and intentional conversations around better aligning that branding. So we think we've done, you know, a pretty good job with aligning the employee NV hub branding, but we want to take it to the next step where it becomes, the employee and be hub, that system is that no wrong door approach. You come in through this door, and if we're not the right organization, we're going to get you the partner that can, and those types of things. We're implementing some tools, platforms, online platforms to help us do this, and we can track referrals and so on. We're working with partners like Go. Elaine's on the call. We just had a conversation today with Elaine about how we can continue to align our efforts. We're working with NSHE and how we can strengthen and support the work that they're doing and weave it into what we're doing. And I could go on, but yes, I mean the reality is we've started that messaging. We're on the right path, but we can do better, right? And so I think that's really one of the things we're asking of this committee is recognize the work that's being done, show us where you still feel that there's gaps, so that we as a system, Dieter, Workforce Connections, Nevada Works, and so on, can help bridge those gaps, and then help be our ambassadors, right? Because you all are in networks that we may not necessarily be in as the local workforce development system. And I'll pause there. Ken, if you want to jump in.
Well, I just want to kind of jump back in and say how I think part of the reason why this subcommittee was formed as I'm from the business community. I've been I've been in business in Nevada for 40 years, and when I first got on the board, I started looking around. I'm like, how did I not know about this? 40 years, I've never known about this. And then you start getting in all the title agencies and trying to figure out that algorithm labyrinth of stuff. And I'm starting to really narrow in and understand it more and see the value that, the whole entire workforce community brings to the state. And I'm proud to be involved. But as a business owner and a contractor, I said, okay, how can I help? How can I do something and at least let my industry know that this exists? So, we brought Employee Envy out in Las Vegas. We brought them to a HVAC business group. And that day they left with 6 new businesses. Since then, they've added 6 more, and these are small businesses, small HVAC companies and I can see why you target the larger employers. It makes a lot more sense for the state to try to get some mass employment going, especially in kind of manufacturing jobs where the, maybe the skill level isn't so rigorous to immediately deploy. But that said, there's a lot of opportunities in the trades and small business where I think there's an opportunity to get some boots on the ground in these associations. And I wouldn't say like most small business people, guys like me who have businesses less than 500 employees, we don't go to the Chamber of Commerce. Small business people don't typically go to the Chamber of Commerce. Usually the ones that don't perform go to the small Chamber of Commerce. It's the big businesses that go there. So, this is if your messages are in these big employer type groups, you don't get to the small businesses. I'm just giving you some input here. I had an occasion to be in Carson City recently, and I stopped by a business called the Happy Outlet. And so I knew the guy, and we started talking, and he was showing me his new training school. And it was humble beginning training school. And he said that he got 6 of his friendly competitors together, and they all pitch in every month, and he's doing the training and at night, and shouldering all this himself while trying to run his business. And he was proud. He's got 27 apprentices now in electrical trade in this network of people doing it himself. And I asked him, well, how come you haven't contacted these people? And he didn't know anything about it either. I guess what I want to say is, you guys are doing great work. I'm really starting to understand it, feel really good about it. Not that I didn't feel good about it at the beginning, but now I really I'm embracing it. There's a lot of opportunity with some pretty simple means to get to some of these associations in every business. I know Tony, who's a commercial real estate broker, I'm sure there's associations that, you can go to luncheons and such and just make your presence known and start to pick up some of this smaller yet very important essential service kind of businesses for the state. Trades businesses specifically are at an urgent need for people and have been for the last 20 years, really, but it's declining fast. Pretty soon we're going to have to start getting robots out there to do the work, I think. But anyway, I just want to make sure that I threw that out there, that there's a lot of opportunity to go out and get in these associations for these smaller businesses and let the small business community know that these services are available. And I think at the end of the day, you'll have a new lead stream for employers and deliver some more value to the local communities.
Yeah, no, sir, for the record, I appreciate that. And you're speaking my language, right? The reality is that when we talk about, where Nevada works, and I'll speak specifically for Nevada Works, when we talk about where Nevada Works is and kind of this continuum with employer engagement and or industry sector partnerships, we're definitely less mature than Workforce Connections is, with regards to Southern Nevada. So they're a little bit further ahead as far as being able to get more granular with some of the types of things that they're doing. But yeah, small businesses, 100%, and we recognize that. But I'll also point out, Ken, and I think that that this is exactly the right conversation, which is I'll point out a few things. Number one, Dieter and has really leaned into and put their money behind the employee and branding. And so I don't remember the exact number. I want to say it was $1 million+ that they have contracted with a marketing agency to get the branding out there, right? So that's definitely a step in the right direction. But even more importantly, we all on this call are in this because we believe in this, right? In this because we support these concepts, and we know people. To your point, Ken, you said, "Well, I talked to this so-and-so," and you said, "Well, here's a system." It's going to take that as well, right? Because we all don't necessarily resonate with a billboard or whatever. We drive by it and we're thinking about other things. It's important to do that, and I'm not trying to diminish that, but it's these partnerships, and so as this committee and the full board and the Nevada Works board and GOED and all the other organizations really start to coalesce and continue to really strengthen this system, I think that a lot of what you're talking about is going to happen organically. Can't rely on that, right? But I think that's part of the plans going forward. The other thing I would share is that the system takes it takes a village approach, and so when Ryan showed that we're standing up a lithium life cycle industry sector partnership, we got $750,000 from Dieter to do that, right? And so the point is that we're partnering probably in ways that aren't seen, right? We of course give our props to Dieter for doing that, and that's just one small example of how, as a system, we're really trying to lean into these employee and being the single point of entry, no wrong door. How do we get to the right place? How do we work with all the other state organizations? And I'll take it one step further. The National Association of Workforce Boards, which is really the industry association for local workforce boards, has over 500 local workforce boards across the country. Their annual conference has historically been in Washington, D.C. It's coming to Las Vegas in March. And one of the reasons that it's coming to Las Vegas in March is all the good work that's happening in Southern Nevada, the good work that's happening in Northern Nevada, and the relationships that the local boards and the system have is not common across the United States. So I encourage anybody who is interested to attend that. They're going to have the second day of that is going to be a Nevada Day. First time that they're going to have a state oriented a day around the work that's happening in that state. And that didn't just happen, right? And that's occurring because of all of the good work that's being done here. And so that's why I thought it was important, and kind of glad that we're all recognizing that there is a lot of work being done. How do we continue to do it? I think that's really, so that's part of this ask here is, how do we collectively make that impact and reach out to the folks that are in our circles to inform them of the work that's going on, and then at the same time, how do we get better through the input from those other folks? Andrew, please.
Thanks so much. I got favor, Milt, that event in March, can you share that with the board? And
100%. Yep.
I think all of us, I can speak on everybody on behalf of this call. Will I'll be there, number one, and unless I have to be out of state or something, which I highly doubt. Two is I'll gladly spread the word with my fellow association heads. To Ken's point, we 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 may be small organizationally wise, where it's 3, 4, 5 of us in each association, but we represent literally tens of thousands of workers. So
Absolutely.
Anything that we can do to help to spread the word on that, just let me know, and we'll be on.
And also thank you for that, and we will share it. Nevada Works and Workforce Connections are both working with the National Association of Boards, NOB, NEWB. We're working with their team to make sure that the event's successful in Las Vegas. And that second day that I talked about, that Nevada Day, they're significantly reducing the cost of attendance because we said we want people from Nevada. We want Nevada to see what's happening in Nevada as well, right? Because we can sometimes, particularly those of us that are in this work on a day-to-day basis, it's easy for us to lose sight of because we're just in it. We have some national best practice right here in Nevada. And I think it's important, to the larger point, it's important for you all to see that as well. So when we're talking about some of the things you see here, this is not happening everywhere. These are some of the things that are happening in Nevada. We want to make it better. Sorry, Jeff, through Dennis.
Dennis, this is George Galt. I'd like to make a comment, if I may.
Please have at it.
I'm pleased to hear all this conversation. It sounds like what I have always thought should be happening, but I will tell you categorically, it is not happening in Southern Nevada rural communities. We've recently gotten some attention from the Workforce Connections in Mesquite. We've got some of their staff coming out, talking to our business, and what we're finding is the business, the folks say, oh, it's great stuff, but then there's no follow-up with business. So we're trying to sort that out. In the meantime, this is like two different worlds. And I don't know if Employee NV is having great success in Las Vegas, but Las Vegas is not all of Southern Nevada. And there's very little happening in the rural communities here. Mesquite, Boulder, Laughlin, so on. So we'd welcome some of your expertise, folks. Maybe we could import Milt.
Well, just Milt's here for the record, just for clarification. Yeah, I mean, you're within Workforce Connections region, so I don't want to specifically speak to that. I know that that Workforce Connections and Nevada Works are really aligned around the strategies for what we're doing, particularly in the rural communities. George, I hear what you're saying. I would say that conversation maybe with Heine and Dieter maybe can bear some fruit for you. But one of the things that it is hard to serve rural communities. I'll acknowledge that. We are very intentional about how we do it, but even I am positive we miss the mark overall when it comes to some of the rural and communities as well. So I feel your pain, and that when I say things like we can continue to get better, I feel like those are some of the types of things that we can continue to get better at.
Hey, George, if you'd like, I'll reach out to Workforce Connections and see if we can start to have a specific conversation about the rurals and the differences in the workforce system, if you'd like, and ask Milt if he would like to engage in that conversation as well, because our board member from Alco had been discussing a little bit of that in the first conversation about how to get capacity and that kind of stuff in the rural areas. Maybe we have a second separate conversation about the rurals in the north and the south and the differences with the cities.
Down here, everything's about Las Vegas, and every time you go into Vegas to one of these workforce meetings, you have to remind them how to spell Mesquite or Laughlin, it's And I've had the conversation with Jaime, and Brian Bullard has been to Mesquite, and we've had a staff person here coming down now on a regular basis. And so we're starting to make some headway. One of their staff people was here yesterday, and I set up an appointment for them with a company called Crown Cork and Seal. That's a worldwide beverage can manufacturer. They've had no interaction with us in spite of the fact that they received significant tax abatements when they came in to the state. So we'll see how the meeting went yesterday. But I've got some headway here going with Workforce Connections. It's been a chore, but it's a broader conversation about rural communities, I think, would be in order. Good suggestion.
I'll make it.
If I could share, if I may, Dennis, if I could share. So just for some, kind of context, and I'll speak to Northern Nevada. So in Northern Nevada, this organization, Nevada Works, is created through a cooperative agreement of 13 counties. And so those 13 counties have the fiduciary responsibility for the WIOA funds and the other funds that this organization receives. And the WIOA funding is based on a formula which two of the largest factors of variables are population in areas of significant unemployment. So total population and unemployment. And so each county has a portion or contributes a portion of the total budget. And so those counties and I think it's natural that the counties that contribute the most to the whole are probably, looking for, that emphasis to be on, the results or the outcomes or the inputs, I guess, rather, that they see would be commensurate with the amount that they're contributing to the whole. We struggle with that as well. One of the things that this Good Job Grant has allowed us to do, because we did specifically target rural communities, was allow us to take some non-WIOA dollars and apply them to rural communities in a way that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do through WIOA. So it's a challenge, and I'm in no way, speaking to your situation in Southern Nevada, but just recognizing that it is hard and it takes a lot of intention. It takes a lot of work to be able to serve the rural communities.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, we're all in Clark County.
Sure enough, I got you.
We don't have multiple counties.
Yeah, so
we just have a 900-pound gorilla.
Yeah, I got you. And I was just kind of explaining in the general sense of what that looks like, but thank you.
All right, Tony, we'll go with Tony and then Jeff.
Hey, Milt, Ryan, thanks for the presentation here. It's Tony McAbee for the record. And I may have missed this, but Milt or Ryan, if you can kind of explain, if we have an employer that is looking for more employees, where should we send them? And maybe kind of give us the difference between the Nevada Works website and Employee NV. How are you guys connected? What is the best course of action there?
Yeah, so again, I'll jump in if you don't mind. So point taken. You're making a point that, yeah. So Employee NV, right? Employee NV is the place that you want to send folks. We have our own website. And when I said that the local boards and Employee NV, Dieter, are working on the branding, these are some of the conversations that we're having right now. How do we emphasize the larger system while still maintaining the local board presence? But so I'm acknowledging, the question, if you will. The reality is, point them to Employee NV, their nearest Employee NV hub, and the idea there would be so they can do employeenv.gov online. They can go to their or reach out to their nearest Employee NV hub. And by virtue of the fact as we strengthen this no wrong door approach, then the partner that can best help them, they'll be able to interact with that partner and other partners.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jeff?
Good morning, everybody. Jeff Sudich for the record. Milt, Ryan, good job. Good to see you guys again. So a little bit about my history with workforce development. Dennis, it was actually under you when you were intern before Frank came on. I was at Research and Analysis Bureau. But bouncing from there to the Commission of Economic Development, turning into GOED, to agriculture, to NV Energy, that whole time, there were a lot of silos within economic or within workforce development, and still is. Where as I kind of having my Dieter background and bouncing around, I would see, oh, all these groups are talking about the same products, but kind of taking credit for them. And then it was like, wait, those are Dieter programs. And so when I was at NV Energy, we were looked at doing our own workforce development program, and we stopped after we found 200 entities in the state doing workforce development. Fast forward at Northern Nevada Development Authority, 4 years ago, Milt comes on, works with John Perrell and Employee NV, and these guys just really start streamlining things, branding, bringing it all together, like you said, Dennis. It's instead of 12 different brands, bringing it down to just a couple. And in this 4-year time frame over the last 15 years or so, I've seen the most push for kind of synergizing all of this and really driving companies to this resource. There's a lot of resources out there, but as Milt mentioned before, you can't really spend marketing dollars to expose it. So I think it was 2013 when this group was originally created with Frank Whitbeck and Tatiana Vukovic, and it's cool to see that this is still going on and maneuvering. Back then, everybody was in the room and it was really discombobulated. So I really like to see that we're down in the weeds really talking about it and trying to move the needle. But it's kind of what I've seen Milt and John do is in this northern area is really communicating kind of boots on the ground on up of what are the needs of these businesses. And Milt's done a great job really working with the colleges, GBC, TMCC, WNC, UNR, on kind of seeing what they're seeing from that perspective. There's 8 regional development authorities in the state, and talking to the ones within our region, this northern Nevada region, to really, okay, what are you seeing from your businesses, the large employers down to the small employers, and then to the counties. The counties are in his meeting every quarter or every other month in those meetings, to hearing what are businesses telling the counties. So you've got businesses talking to the regional development authorities, talking to the counties, talking to the schools, all kind of channeling into Nevada Works. And then from the Northern Nevada Development Authority side of things, kind of to your question, Tony, is we would bring both Nevada Works and Employee NV, John Perrell's group, now Cindy, into these meetings. We could do our own labor market reports. We've got that data, but it was more important for us to say, hey, John Perrell, why don't, or, and Milt Stewart, come in here or bring your teams in here, do the labor market report yourself, because you have that data as well, but getting that introduction to the business, to the workforce entity, with all the free resources and the grants that can help provide them with funds to do the training, to reimburse them for the trainings, to do those job fairs, and to hire from these different lists and get them introduced, so then they've got a resource to go directly, so they didn't have to use us as the RDA, as the middleman. Just pass them off directly, and then they've got that resource. George, kind of your question on your issues in rural Nevada, I would say talk to and you may have already done this, and I don't know the dynamic down there in southern Nevada, but talk to the regional development authorities that's in your region. Talk to your counties, your cities, to let them know about it and try to channel that through to was a Workforce Connections group. Is that your counterpart, Milt? So try to channel it that direction so that they know what the needs are as well. And then now here at the Nevada Builders Alliance, we're a statewide organization, and we're not just focused on builders. We're here to help everybody and to help business development and economic development and workforce development, but very focused on the builders. And we've got a foundation that helps support the trades, and so we can give scholarships and grants, and we're working with Milt on a grant trying to apply to bring some federal dollars here. But even though we're statewide, historically we've only really worked in Clark County, Washoe, and Carson City, and so I've really got an effort to push throughout all the rural. So if you're hearing anything as well, lean on me. I'm happy to jump in and help to help communicate what your needs are statewide as well, so that we can help try to move the needle from this standpoint. But I don't want to recreate the wheel. Let's use what Milt and John are doing and help find resources to make it better. So good to meet everybody, and good to see some of you folks that I already know.
Good to see you,
And
Jeff.
Janelle, I see you're on the call. Janelle's an old high school friend, so that's cool that she's here too.
Edward?
You're on mute, Edward.
Go ahead. You there, Edward? We can't hear you if you're talking.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay.
The
there we go.
unmute button was not unmuting for some stupid reason. Anyway, sorry. Edward Estefano for record. I will echo what everyone's saying, that prior to about 3-4 years ago, everything was very siloed. And as you can imagine, when things are siloed for so long, it takes a longer time. It's not like you can just wave a magic wand and make it unsilo. But a lot of work has been done in the last 3-4 years by the local workforce board in Dieter. I will kind of maybe point out why the silos happen, or how the silos happen, in just in my own observation. I think there's grants that are out there, federal grants, national grants, regional grants, all these grants. And what happens is you have a bunch of these organizations that are doing work in these spaces. And in doing work in these spaces, they go after the money. And so what happens is they go after the money, and then they go, oh, there's this portion that we don't do. But to get this money, we're going to have to do it. So they'll stand up a program to do it just for doing it, rather than let's look for partners that are already doing it and let's share. And I think that's what's happened. And I think, again, what I've been seeing in the last 3 years is the local workforce board and Dieter have really kind of clamped down on that and saying, how do we keep on doing these partnerships? And again, I've seen it even in that industry sector partnership that Ryan was talking about. When you can bring Enshi in the room, when you can bring GoEd in the room, when you can bring all these players in the room and can hear all that, I think that helps. I think we need to get to that level eventually from a grant standpoint, from a funding standpoint, and we'll get there. But I think it's going to take time. And in this whole process of looking at all these players, again, and I will say this, I think the intention's there and it's a good intention, but not every player in the space of workforce has the intention of wanting to collaborate, is what I've seen. And so that's the other trick, is you want to be inclusive and bring everybody in, but some people don't. And so it is a challenge. And again, Dieter and the local workforce boards have been working super hard in trying to engage people, but you can't force people to play if they don't want to play.
So I'm going to pass this to Milt a little bit. Do you see a scenario where you and Workforce Connections and Dieter come up with some kind of tripartite agreement that we can put forth as into the state plan so that we can do this? And I know as well as you do, you have to be cautious because we only get 1 or 2 chances to approach these employers and get it right. We send them a confusing message the first time and we've lost them for good, a lot of them anyway. That's my take on it. But can this committee, can we make a recommendation to the full board? And do you think it's even necessary to codify it like that?
Minister, for the record, well, that's a little bit of a loaded question, but here's what I can say, right? I can say that there's a lot of work being done along those lines right now. Literally, I'm talking about right now. We are having conversations around this. And really, for the benefit of this group, recognizing that we're onto something good here, right? This employee NV branding, we're heading in the right direction. Now there's some sausage making, right? There's some things that we're trying to do to kind of fine tune what some of these things look like. So I'm going to say generically, we can be better. Can there be a can or should there be an agreement, if you will, amongst the main players? Yeah, we are literally working on that right now. And so whether it needs to be codified or not, I guess it depends on where we get to, right? And so it might be a little bit premature to say that. Codifying, in my mind's eye, when we use words like silos and codification and those types of things, feels like we lose some of the spirit of what we're trying to do, right? And so, in my mind's eye, what can we develop through memorandums of understanding and just general agreements? And sometimes it's a handshake agreement, right? We're all adults here. We all are working towards the same things. How do we work together? And so, the short answer is yes. The long answer is, I would say, to be determined. But I think this group, I'm going to tell you this much, and I get revved up by these conversations because I feel like things are moving in the right direction. I feel like, we had this concept, and Ken, I think that you've kind of articulated it fairly well, which is, particularly new governor's board members, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's happening, and then once we get grant and when we say, well, stop, well, let's take a beat and let's analyze what is happening and how do we supplement that. The simple fact that we're having this conversation, I think, is a step in the right direction as well. Where it leads, I think there's still a little bit more, GOA is going to come on in a minute here and you're going to have other actors. But once you get all that information, how do we feed into and maybe better articulate how this organization can help from an overall perspective? Those are my thoughts.
And it might have been a little bit of an error in my question. I'm saying a tripartite agreement, but you have the RDAs, you have Title II, you have the WIN program, where we're going to hear about next. And I think, to some degree, the governor's board was meant to try to stitch all that together in some way, but you don't want to get in the way of the good work. I know you guys are doing it far better than what we were doing 5 years ago when I was there. So I think that we're going in the right direction, but bringing in all 9 of those brands and not just the big 3 and trying to figure out how to stitch that together. Ken? You're on mute, Ken.
Ken Goodrich. Milt, maybe you can help me clarify something. I still haven't got it clear in my mind. Why is it that you can't market for the services to business owners? I assume you can do some, go to the chamber and meet people and talk, but can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, Milt, sure, for the record. So, generically speaking, let's talk WIOA specifically. There are regulations that basically say, they limit the ability to market in a traditional type of a sense, right? And so, within the past few years, there was I think it was 2 years ago, there's a thing called the TIGO, which is technical guidance from the U.S. Department of Labor, which recognized that to a large extent, the workforce development system was hamstrung with the ability to do some kind of normal marketing type things and exposure. We just couldn't spend the dollars on it. And so the U.S. Department of Labor recognized that, okay, let's open that up a little bit. Let's be clearer about the things that you can do and that you can't do. And some of this gets way down in the weeds, which is not, really this conversation. But so now it's, the public workforce development system, and we all are really starting to lean into the opportunities that exist. I mean, there's funding limitations, right? We have to have a balance between, it's like when you're running your own business, what percentage are you going to use for marketing and what are you going to use, for other purposes? We're kind of having the same conversations, right? And trying to figure out what that sweet spot is. But I will go back to, and I feel like, and I don't want to speak for Dieter, but I feel like this is kind of a shift for them, right? Or for the system to say there, and I don't remember the exact dollars, Edward, you may be able to supplement the number, but over $1 million in marketing that didn't happen in the past. And it's not Dieter marketing. They're trying to make it employee and VIA marketing. So we're experiencing that shift right now. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? But to your point, yeah, I mean, it's those granular, those relationship things, but it's that larger marketing as well. And I know that there's a lot of efforts at Dieter is really putting their money where their mouth is to say, look, we want to support the system. How do we best do that? And those are the conversations we're having right now. I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but what I'm hoping is that it kind of gives a context of collectively we're trying to elevate the conversation and really do more marketing and outreach.
Yeah, well, it sounds that's the best explanation I've had thus far, and now I'm starting to understand it's headed in the right direction. Um, and then, what I started with my original conversation today, which was, these bigger employers, they typically have very experienced HR departments and teams that understand that every state has these services and such. But let me, and so I understand why you would go after that, because it's just the large numbers of it. Um, um, let's see, I lost my train of thought here. Hang on.
If I may, Ken, I think that you were talking about large businesses, and then before you had said kind of how do we focus on smaller businesses? Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, and
So
I was gonna bring up this one that just coming and go back to this original example with the HVAC group in Las Vegas. Interesting enough, so I've been I've been in business my whole life, and for those of you who have never been in business, and those of you have been in business, we all understand this. It's very difficult. Business is very difficult. And most of us start with a trade or a skill or a profession. We don't start with knowing how to run a business, right? And so most business people that I've ever met are desperate for help. They're desperate. And they're just gutting it out every single day. And in this particular instance of the HVAC group, the first six new businesses they brought on, they all signed up for some management training. Like, those people recognized they couldn't hire or keep employees. And so they got management training. And then the next six, they all signed up for that. Again, I didn't even have an understanding that that level of service were available. I guess what I'm saying is there sure is a lot of great opportunity, and you offer so much more. The whole universe of workforce groups in Nevada offers so much more that's so valuable to the community. And I guess the last question I have for you is, do you think that we, or the workforce, we'll call it the community, do they use all the budget every year? Is there surplus?
That question is for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Mel's here for the record. So I would say that, to answer that question, generically speaking, yes, right? And, we all have some circumstances where there's funding that's for very specific things, and we weave it all together. And we're always looking at the expenditure rates to see if we're going to be able to, utilize all that funding before it expires and those types of things. And it's rare. I can't say it never happens, but it's rare that we don't, the collective, we don't fully expend. But I'll tell you what we do when we start to recognize, 6-8 months before, 2-3 quarters before the end of a grant period, and we're looking at those expenditure rates. We have very intentional conversations, right? How do we pivot? How do we accelerate? Those types of things. So we're very, we monitor to that. We are policing to that. We're paying attention to that. I would also, to the small business aspect of things. So one of the things that you mentioned, you have an employer that needs additional training. Well, Dieter provided both local boards with incumbent worker training, and that's exactly what that incumbent worker training is meant to do, is to take existing employees, to take, existing businesses and say, how do we help them get better so they can retain employees, so they can grow, and so on. So there is, again, putting our money where our mouth is collectively to say, how do we help those individuals? And one other thing I want to point out is that Nevada Works applied for, last year, Nevada Works applied for an apprenticeship grant through the U.S. Department of Labor, and it's a statewide grant. And that we are, Nevada Works is administering, it's called the Nevada Apprenticeship Initiative. We're administering it in combination, in conjunction with Workforce Connections and Dieter for a statewide approach. And the next step in this is Nevada Works is in the process of applying to be an intermediary and an apprenticeship intermediary and a sponsor. And what the takeaway for you from that would be, what we can do once we're in the State Apprenticeship Council agenda for the next meeting, what we can do once we're approved is we can better serve those smaller businesses, because small businesses, there are many businesses right now, they're doing apprenticeships, they're just not calling it an apprenticeship, right? They're just not structuring it like a formal apprenticeship. Well, how do we help them do that? How do we build a template that for other like kinds of businesses, so that we can tweak it? But we have a model here that we can offer to multiple small businesses and say, look, do you want to offer apprenticeships? Here's the model, and here's how we can help you do it. Because there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of paperwork and so on. We want to take that on as an organization, because we know, Ken, to your point, it's a lot easier for a larger organization that has an HR team to be engaged in apprenticeships. So we want to bring it down to that lower level. We want to make sure that those small businesses have the same opportunities. And then lastly, the employee NV hubs are designed to serve small business. So I'll give you an example here in Reno. Our business services hub downstairs has conference room, has training room, has 2 interview rooms, has the staff that's there. So those mom and pops, those small businesses, if they don't have that infrastructure and they don't have those resources, it's available to them at no cost.
Wow. Ken Goodrich, for the record. Well, thank you. I mean, that's such a valuable services. Like, most small business people don't understand that they need to know that, right? And how important that is. But I don't think anybody understands that those services are available. And I think if we could get it out some way, we could really help the small business community. But Milt, I want to say, great job today. Thank you so much. You've really clarified a lot of things for me, and I believe the group. And thanks for the great work you're doing.
Appreciate it.
If I could just add one thing real quick to this point. What I've seen in my own employer engagement, often with the smaller businesses that we're talking about right now, is when we're comparing them to these larger businesses, and often the misconception for these smaller employers is that to engage in the workforce system, you have to have a 20 or 30 person cohort or something to go through training. And so it's maybe intimidating. They don't understand that the workforce system isn't necessarily always about hitting home runs. Home runs are great. We love that. But it's also about singles and doubles and helping the smaller guys with, apprenticeship or incumbent worker training. Those resources are out there for everybody, and it's not a one-size-fits-all model. That's it for me.
Edward Estepona for the record. So Ken, just to iterate something that Milt was saying around that, if you send any of these small businesses to the employee NV, one of the cool things is they will be assigned an account manager. And in that account manager, that part of that account manager's job is to guide them through what do you need, and so they get that individual services. So I know I'm not quite sure what's happening in the South, but in the North, there are multiple account managers that will actually visit these spaces after they're assigned account managers. So again, I encourage people to go into the employee NV system and get the businesses in there, because I think every time there's new services, because what we don't know is the services will change based on funding that's happening on the federal government and everything else. So every time there's something new, then they can be updated of what's going on with that as well.
Well, that Ken Goodrich, that's good information. Thank you. And you're going to see a whole bunch of HVAC and plumbing dudes coming your way.
So, go ahead.
Ken, just so you know, Ryan Woodward of NTI in Southern Nevada is talking about coming up here so we can serve Northern Nevada as well.
Oh, great.
Hello, Irene. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ken. I've heard you raise that question before. Irene Bustamante from Southern Nevada, the Workforce Connections part of the state. And I hear you, and I know that we could all do a better job. And so I'm going to circle back, because I want you to be knowledgeable, because the better that you become informed, the more champion you can be for us. And we've got to multiply the Army in order to get the word out there. And so just thank you for continuing to raise the issue, and just appreciate you helping us with that.
Yeah, Ken Goodrich, thank you, Irene. I'm fully on the team.
All right, I'm just going to make one passing comment before we move on. The whole country has had a problem with this, the way that the federal government passes money down. This isn't unique to Nevada by any means. And to illustrate it, I believe when I left EATR at one point, my salary was paid by 24 different funding streams, all with different rules, all with different performance measures, all with these overly complex mess. And the sad thing is we're still talking about this years later, but the good thing is I know they've done far better in the last 5 years than we had done prior to that. So I think that we're really getting there. I think it's going to probably be a conversation at the end of time, as to Milt's point, how do we always do it better? But they're doing it better. But this problem, and I guess it's sport to complain about the federal government at this point, but the problem starts with the federal government and how they pass money, and then they leave it to this local folks to try to straighten it out. But this was a good conversation. With that, I would move on to Elaine if she's still on the call, and we'd love to hear about the WIN program and its role in this soup of workforce.
Of course, Elaine Silverstone for the record. I'm Director of Workforce Development from GWDB. And while you've been talking about federal resources, I'm going to bring some state resources to the conversation. I'm going to share my screen for a moment. So not unlike a slide that Ryan presented in his great deck, I too often refer to this image. I think my screen is sharing and you see this circle, yeah? Just need one nod. Thanks, Tiffany. So this is an old diagram that I found in my desk when I arrived 2 short years ago. It's an Owen-owned diagram, but it's dated, but it really resonates for me, and I think many on the call will agree. What I like about this image of the very robust workforce ecosystem that I submit to you is really working in great alignment. So thanks for a different point of view, or welcoming a different point of view, is that each of our agencies have very specific charges. And I think we've become very well versed in those charges. And as a result, we're really working very efficiently in our lanes and supporting one another. So very quickly, you'll see the governor's office, of course, in blue at the top, GWDB in blue at the bottom. We're here today with the Governor's Workforce Development Board in green, and in partnership across the dial with DETR. We can't do this work. We do this work in service, rather, I should say, for employers, workforce, and partners. And what I haven't really heard a lot about in this call so far is some of my most valued partnerships, which is with the education agencies, NSHE and NDE. Now, I don't see NDE representation on the call. I've glanced back and forth through the Hollywood Squares here. But I look for them in conversations like these. And I do see Stevan Corbett is on from CSN, and Dr. Natalie Brown, a valued partner from NSHE, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development. So when I think about these kinds of conversations, it's really important for me to consider this aligned system. So thanks for letting me bring this up. And Ryan, I hope you'll add GWDB as one of the important partners in your slide, because we were missing.
Naturally, yes, of course.
I know that. Thank you so much. And I'm jibing in Good Friday spirit only, because I do know that. Okay, let me take that slide down and pull up a brief presentation, but really I prefer to talk into my website, which I'll also bring up, because my goal is that our resources are very readily available to any user, that, we're trying to drive people to the tools online for ease. Okay, so let me share. Let me get this one up in slideshow. And whoops, what's sharing right now? Nothing? Hold on one second. Okay, do you see my screen? Yeah, go ahead, slide. Perfect, then I'll continue. So, as I was mentioning in that diagram, I submit that each of the agencies are well focused in their charge. And at GoEd, our charge is to diversify the economy so that all Nevadans have a high wage pathway in a career of interest, right? We're not just a hospitality town. It's very important that we're attracting new sectors. And as Milt mentioned earlier, while their different agencies may refer to different sectors based on their geography and region, perhaps, about 5 years ago, GoEd undertook an effort with partners across the state to complete a comprehensive economic development strategy, the SEDS. They brought in a third-party research partner, SRI. At the time, I was a PhD student at UNLV in public affairs, and I sat in that room with all of the leaders who would become my colleagues, unbeknownst to me at the time, working on that SEDS. And what SRI was charged with, or what their approach was, many of you know, I hope I'm just repeating this for your benefit, but what they did was they analyzed the infrastructure of our state to help identify those assets for which we were rich, that if we were to focus on these sectors, we'd have wins, right? Low-hanging fruit. And so for GoEd, those 5 sectors include advanced manufacturing, the transportation and logistics, IT, natural or clean resources, and an expanded view of we call creative industries, an expanded view of hospitality to include film, outdoor recreation, and sports. Some of our partners in the regions, of course, add sectors like biotech and whatever's very meaningful for their sectors. And at GoEd, with that report, with the SEDS, we added 2 addendum sectors that we consider community development. Those sectors are water sustainability and healthcare. And so in our office, we can dedicate resources to helping to build these sectors while our RDA partners are out courting businesses to bring their businesses and their high wage jobs to the state. We have some resources to help them do that. So in the toolkit, my business development partners will work to introduce abatements, a variety of abatements that businesses can enjoy when they move here, but that alone may or may not be enough to win new business attraction to Nevada. And so we have another tool in the toolkit, which I represent today, which is Workforce Innovations for a New Nevada, so that we can say to businesses as they're considering bringing those high wage jobs to Nevada or staying here and expanding, that yes, we are committed to making sure there is a robust talent pipeline for you when you come, and we'll build those programs with and for you if you find that in fact we don't. And that is, I don't really even need my slides at this point, although I'll talk through them, but that is really the story of WIN. So yeah, why don't we go through a few slides? Which screen will advance them? There we go. I'm not going to slide read for you, but to say that WIN is a statutory program. It is defined by statute. We present WIN applications quarterly to the GoEd board. I'm trying to see at a quick glance. Well, certainly some former RDA partners would have presented to the board in the past, and maybe you've ever participated or observed one. They're public meetings like this. Is this a public meeting? This is a public meeting, right? Public comments were on the agenda. You're welcome to join those at any time as well. Boom, boom, boom. I'm really going to pass these slides very quickly because I'll have another deck that will give some more specifics. But this is really just repeating all that I just said. What's really perhaps my favorite part of the WIN Fund is that awards are framed around an industry-led training model. So we're eager to build workforce training for businesses in the sectors for which we seek to attract and build a diversified landscape here in the state. It's very, very key that when an application is presented to the GoEd board for WIN funds, there's really a very like a strong fabric of employers engaged in the application. So in other words, An educational institution or an authorized provider, as the statute will say, applies for the WIN funds really on behalf of employers in the sector. And a great application will have many employers, right? Like we're not building a workforce training program for one employer, but rather a sector. And so there'll be 3, 4, maybe 5 letters of support with as many jobs that are high wage jobs, of course, in the application. A key facet, right? All Nevadans, high wage jobs. That's our goal. If I repeat that and you can repeat it too at the end of this call, then this has been a good presentation as far as I'm concerned. More about the statute, more about the way. So my role as advocate for the employers and the educational institutions delivering these programs is to make sure that they're utilizing all the funds. There was some talk about being good stewards of financial resources. I will say that in the last legislative term, which is last enough now that we should really only be talking about the current term, we had $10 million for the 2-year term that ended in June of 2025. We built 18 new programs across all 4 community colleges. Of course, WIN funds are, I know Milt and I feel very similarly about this. WIN funds are eligible for authorized providers, which includes community colleges, K-12, labor unions, and authorized providers, which means an institution, an organization on the state's eligible training provider list, ETPL. But in this case, all of the awards had gone to community colleges because typically they do meet many of the criteria that is in the statute. In other words, we want to deliver a workforce pipeline quickly. So one of the criteria is that programs are typically 12 months or less. And they can be used for resources like equipment, or curriculum development, all kinds of things, very much like a one-shot investment, right? We're not looking to pay salaries and tuitions necessarily, but we want to help build the workforce program that will help support the diversification of economic sectors. Yes, someone's at, thank you, Dave. There are all of the reports about WIN would be public and available on our website. I'm going to pull up the website in a minute, so I'll poke to that, but there's a newsroom and/or data tab, so we'll make sure you can find all that. So I really want to empower you to be able to find this information after our call today. And I want to be also mindful that Amy will have some time. Okay, so here's the process. What happens first is on the website, and I'm pull it up in just a second, there's a link to a pre-application. So we will ask authorized providers, that is the institution that will be delivering the workforce training, to fill out a pre-application. The pre-applications are pretty short by design so that we can have early conversations to determine if the program in mind is a fit for WIN funds based on the statutory definition, of course. And my role as advocate is to either help make sure the application will evolve into a strong one for approval with the GOED board, or help direct you to other resources across state agencies like the Workforce Connections or Nevada Works, the Employee NV Career Hubs, NDE program, CTE, for example, and other programs that are offered throughout the NG organization. Once we determine a pre-application does meet all the criteria, you advance to complete the WIN application, which is a little lengthier. It asks for a whole bunch of data. One point that we've added in the last year and a half to really answer GOED board concerns is that we're creating pipeline for high wage jobs. And so we ask completers of the application to visit an open source data site called ONET, where they will input their job description, a couple keywords about the job description, as well as their zip code or two or their city or region, because we want you to be able to pull up wage trend comparisons, regionally, state, and nationally to demonstrate to the GOED board that we're creating capacity for high wage jobs. And so that data has become a really helpful storyteller in our applications. After The WIN application is complete. I work together with partners again as advocate to build those very strong applications because we want to go to the GoEd board, and I always sit beside my partner when the applications are for community colleges, beside my partner Natalie Brown, to present to the board the application. Those GoEd board meetings happen quarterly. And let me give one caveat. When an application is $100,000 or more, we present to the GoEd board. When they are less than $100,000, we can present at any time for approval to our executive director at GoEd, Tom Burns. Just a revisit to the target industries and a reminder that we have added in addendum to the SEDS 2 community development sectors, water sustainability and healthcare, that we can fund for. I will drop this into, so one definition in the statute for WIN is that we have to be creating primary jobs. Primary jobs by Nevada Administrative Code means job is 30 hours or more and has a revenue export of 51% out of state. This becomes difficult to present healthcare applications because typically they're not delivering a good or service out of state. However, we do have precedent of one excellent example at the College of Southern Nevada last term, where we were able to award funds to build a nursing expansion program at their North Las Vegas campus. And the way that we were able to do that and meet all the terms of the statute is that it was true for the employers at the other end, that for who had these the high wage jobs, that there was a medical tourism component to their business model. And in that way, they were delivering a good or service outside the state. Thank you for that. Let me go to the website now, which is really important for me, that I empower you to find all this information after our brief conversation. Do you have my website up? I'm going to look for Tiffany, who nods at me first and fast. Yeah, the website is up. Perfect. Thanks. So I'm at goed.nv.gov. To answer Dave's question, if you would go to newsroom and or about GoEd, both of these tabs at the rightmost top navigation will bring you to almost any resource you can think of: press releases, agendas to join GoEd board meeting, all the materials. Thank you, Dave. All the materials from past GoEd board meetings, reports, so on and so forth. And our communications team does a really good job of keeping this current. But WIN rather, live over here. So in the second tab from the left are divisions. The first tab is workforce development, and I encourage you to explore here. I welcome your feedback. And I would also like to let you know that a recent conversation had between partners like John Farrell, Milt, and Edward Estepona when we met up in Northern Nevada was to make sure there was strong connection on our page to DETR resources as well. We took that action item and acted upon it right away. And our communications team worked with those partners at DETR, who our webpage is in, not just in flux, but it's like reasonably new, like relaunched brand and all this kind of thing. And it turned out they were literally working on that section of our page. And I think that action is likely complete, that there's stronger connection between resources from our agency to other workforce agencies, not just DETR, but that whole diagram in mind. Okay, Amy, I'm going to be done in 3 minutes, and I'm going to toss to you, my friend, because we like working together in our workforce ecosystem. You hear that almost every meeting you go in town. We like working together. Okay, so workforce development. When you scroll, you'll get a little blurb. That's nice. And then you come to 2 of the tools that we have at GoEd, not just WIN, but also the individual career mapping, which my colleague Tammy Westergaard heads. And these are ability to engage in career development through tools often found at local libraries. I won't go down that hole right now. Tammy does a great job of presenting far and wide as well. But for WIN, you click in right here. One of the reasons this is my favorite picture, not because I'm in it, but because CCSD teachers are in it from SECTA, having met them at a College of Southern Nevada turnaround training at the Center for Excellence. Met these teachers while they were training on equipment at CSN, and then they were bringing this training into for K-12. And this was an amazing, absolutely amazing career fair. Employers were there, students were there with their resumes. It was incredible. So that's why that's my favorite picture. If you click into Win is where you'll find all the things I hope I've talked about and will leave you easy access to find again and again. For example, in this box on the right here is my pre-application. There's budget templates, sample letters of support, our resource guide. And some of these tools are for once you're an active Win project. And I'm quite sure that we don't yet have the 2026 GoEd board meeting schedule up, but we will soon, and the next meeting's in February. And we are already if you were going to be a WIN program on the 20 February meeting, we'd be actively working together right now. So that would, I leave you with that there's like there's some time that you have to work on the application. There's time that we have to provide materials to the GoEd board to review and of course make public for public meetings. So it's not like you can submit a week before and get on the agenda, but I'm sure that's not new information. So the first thing I would want to draw your attention to is this link right here to the statute, which to my happy surprise is not really difficult to read. Like it's not all legalese and unpleasant. It's manageable. Anyone who's really interested could, over a cup of coffee, get through it, and you'd have a sense of what are the defining terms of a compliant WIN application. Further down the page is an image that you saw in my slide that would walk a user through the process for WIN funds. And further down are excellent examples, and I'm going to talk to the 4 current ones. What's up here are the archive of WIN applications, both just the last term and long before I ever got here. Some of these institutions I know don't even exist in the same form. These are previous WIN applications. Let me stop sharing as I close with what's current. So there are this term, we have $4 million for WIN funds and for the WIN account. And so far we have awarded 60% of that fund, $2.7 million to 4 programs. Happens there's one each at each of the 4 community colleges. And so Great Basin College received an award to continue the great work that they've done through the NORCAP Mind Skills Training Program, which supports many employers in that region and for that important economic sector. Truckee Meadows Community College received a much smaller award, actually approved by our executive director, to continue the excellent work they're doing in a very key sector, transportation and logistics. Western Nevada College received a significant award to build an advanced manufacturing training center in the Fernley area at the Victory Logistics District, which will have great reach to many, many counties in that part of the state. And there was a significant award as well to the College of Southern Nevada to support all of the equipment needs at the Westside Education and Training Center, which was a very braided funding, large partnership with EDA, City of Las Vegas, and so forth. And so they've had a ribbon cutting from the city that the building is open, and CSN will have a great big celebration this spring semester as equipment arrives and more future workforce for businesses in the key sectors we seek to attract to the state arrive. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks again, Elaine. I appreciate you. Go ahead, Dave. Did we lose you, Dave?
No, I was on mute. And this might be a longer question than we have time for, but I put it in the chat. But I was really curious to see, like, in looking at the WIN report, like it does lay out very nicely. Like, here's the programs, here's the investments, and then it has some narrative behind it. But I was curious, like, it would be really interesting to me to see, like, how far along these are. Like, hey, the program's established. Here's how many students are enrolled. Like, what's the impact, and then showing like what the volume of the pipeline is in terms of, like, hey, here's people who are graduating and ready. Here's the total number of graduates. Like, I'm not even sure what the best milestones would be, but kind of showing that progress through into creating that. And then I would really love to see, but I think there might be a challenge in getting the data, is, are these students who complete these programs successfully getting into the occupation or similar occupations to what they trained for? Like, is it getting them into those specific jobs. And I think that's a challenge because I think one of the gaps that we have is we don't have good, consistent data on what the occupations are of people who are employed in the state right now. It's kind of a hole in the data that I think everyone would love to fill, except there's only one way to get it, and that's to ask employers for it. But
Yes.
If
Yes.
if that's in the plan as far as like getting a pipeline or something like that in the report, so it's not just like the funding, but also the what has happened as a result, especially in like a consistent way. So I think it looked like it was in some of the narratives, but not others. But like, boy, if there's one thing I was looking at or looking for at a glance in that report, it would be that.
Elaine Silverstone, for the record, thank you for that excellent question. It's not the first time that question's been asked, and for us as well. So we're not going to answer that question in this call. I am going to take it with you offline, and if another conversation in the future becomes helpful, but I am going to say more. First, I had invited my very esteemed partner at GoEd, Steve Sheets, to the line, and I'm so glad he's on listening. I've also invited Natalie Brown to be on the call to listen because we work together across the system to do what we're calling a program gap analysis. And so a report of that kind is in form. That's one. Two, you're right. So we can talk about pipeline. You heard me mention capacity. For the 18 programs last year, we built capacity for over 2,000 student completers at about, I think, 61 companies. And I don't have my dashboard up. So that's first. But it's true, the institutions don't know where the students go unless the employers tell them. And of course, when the employers write their letters of support for WIN programs, we say, there's an obligation that you'll share data with us. Please. We ask nice. But we don't really have any consistent data-centric means for capturing that data. And so at this time, we talk about it as capacity. I'm sure you're not surprised that information would be very interesting for our legislators as well. And we would like to be able to present it to them, but we know we need to present it soundly. And I don't know that we have systems in place to capture that now. Please, let's have a conversation offline. We're all very interested in building strong responses to that question. And I don't want to monopolize more of Amy's time because she's going to bring back the employee piece very, very profoundly. Are there any other questions? Yeah. Oh, Irene.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Elaine. Thank you so much. My question has to do around the sectors. So I know that in Southern Nevada, through the collaboration from GOED, LVGA, the chambers, workforce connections, and so forth, came up with the workforce blueprint and established the 7 industries sectors that this region in this area was going after. But I haven't seen that collaboration moving forward. My question is, do you know if something's in the pipeline for that? Because water sustainability that you mentioned is not on the radar that I know of from a local workforce board. And so I'm just concerned that there's misalignment there. And how do we go back to concentrating on the true assets? If they've evolved, that's great. But I don't know if that's communicated down the list of organizations that should know.
Sure, I think that's fair. So one, the SEDS, as I mentioned, that was written 5 years ago, 2020 to 2025, is currently in the active process of a refresh. And, so that report would come out quite soon, and to be consistent and communicated with the RDAs and our partners in the workforce ecosystem. I will say, my partners in through the Knowledge Fund and innovation-based economic development are very actively engaged with water sustainability programs through Water Start, for example, and various work with the educational institutions across the state. But I hear what you're saying, and I also want to honor what some of the concerns were earlier in the call, that we're trying to create alignment across the system. And so it shouldn't be new for one party to hear or be engaged with than another. I'm looking because I see the chat box is coming up actively as well. So I don't know if that answers your question well, Irene, but separately, I will say that yesterday I had the pleasure of being in the field with one of your colleagues, Cherie Mantanonio. We went and visited one of the high schools. Again, I'm like really key on including NDE in these conversations. So we went to visit a CTE program, observed a robotics and advanced manufacturing program. Really excited to lift a communication story out of that visit as well. And we'll keep doing that across all sectors. That is certainly our commitment.
Ken?
Elaine, for the record, thank you.
Ken Goodrich for the record. Elaine, very, very good presentation and comprehensive in my learning journey of the workforce ecosystem. So I have an associate who is negotiating to acquire a standby generator manufacturing company, and with plans to open the manufacturing plant in Nevada. Is when the first place that team would go and start talking with the state to help them develop a workforce for that venture?
But certainly you're welcome to reach out to GoEd, and depending on the nature of the inquiry as we might unpack it, it might be that we connect them with the partner at their the appropriate regional development authority or at the local workforce board. So I'd love to hear more about that, but yes, we aim to respond as a cohesive workforce system that we're all expert in what each other is doing, so that if once we talk, it's not me, I know where to send you and I'm going to take you there.
Okay. Well, I'll reach out offline.
Please do.
Thank you.
Dennis, this is George Galt. I'd like to just ask a question of Elaine.
Sure.
That is, my information from trying to create a new CTE program in Mesquite is that it takes a year to get one put in place through CCSD. If that's true, if that's the case, we have a task to work on.
Hi, George. Elaine Silverstone for the record. Thanks for sharing that. I will never forget the visit I took when I came out to Mesquite and visited some of those resources, both the CSN building and then when you sent us to visit that incredible workforce training center. If your question is specific to a CCSD task, again, I will restate how important I think it is that they're always on the line here with us when we're talking about workforce. And I did scroll through my Hollywood Squares before I started speaking, but I don't know that we thought to include them. And like I enjoy being at meetings with Anna Reynolds and Gia Moore and Tristan Hayes and some of these very, very important workforce partners from Nevada Department of Education and the local school districts.
Janelle?
We don't hear you. Unmute, yeah.
I hit that button too many times. Sorry. Janelle Thomas for the record. I brought this up before about some of the training concerns I've seen here in Elko County specifically, and how we have a lot of a very industrial sector. So that training, I know they're working with Great Basin College with the NORCAP program and allowing more and more programs to get more exposure there. But I've been kind of looking lately and I'm noticing it seems like our college is dropping more and more of our class programs. Like I'm seeing there's no firefighting classes anymore. I was just trying to look for EMT classes. There's no EMT classes being available anymore. And obviously that's this is a little bit of an early conversation. I just kind of saw that. Is that something where the conversation starts with the colleges or the educational institution and then they reach out to you for further assistance, or is that something where you can be brought in the beginning to kind of facilitate directly over with them what programs you might help with?
Thanks, Elaine Silverstone for the record. I think it's a great place to close as well, because it gives me an opportunity to restate a key differentiator of the WIN resource versus other resources in the workforce ecosystem. And that is that we are an industry-led training model. So as our representatives of business development seeking to attract economic diversification in our sectors, bring new business and industry into the state, and or help those that are here to expand, win is a tool that we can use to help secure those wins. Pun intended and not intended, right? So I would always encourage, I'm happy to join conversations early, too early, late, like please think of me and bring me in. Happy to. And this brief example you're providing, first of all, my closest partners at Great Basin College include Nicole Mayer and Sherry Beard, who are on the grant management team there. And so they're very well versed in WIN statutory requirements that we're responding to business development. Like, what are the businesses coming to town with their high wage jobs? We want to make sure we're building a pipeline for them. That's a little nuance, right? Like it's circumstantial in a way as well. Like I'd want to hear all of the scenarios in which we can help with state resources to build workforce programs, but typically it's an industry-led training model. So thank you very much for having me. Amy's time is as important as mine, and I certainly want to make sure she has time to share with you. Good to be with you, and I remain an open and ready resource to speak with you at any time.
Thanks, Elaine. And as we have, like in our previous conversation to this agenda item, as we start talking about that employer outreach, we'll be sure to have you at the table. With that, if we haven't drove Ms. Raspini off, are you available to talk about the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance?
I am. And what in time would you like me to respect so you guys can wrap up your meeting and respect all of your calendars today?
But please give your presentation, and if we have lots of questions, we might have a follow-up conversation if that's all right with you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I think we've all been able to curtail our presentation styles from 2 minutes to 20, depending on what our day allows these days. So my name is Amy Raspini, and I have a very unique role within our regional workforce development partnerships that we have here. While my work title is a workforce talent liaison, I'm actually, my paycheck comes from Employee NV itself, Title I specifically. However, our region saw a lot of what you all have identified earlier in your conversations. You've identified that previously a lot of WIOA workforce resources have been siloed. Who to talk to? Where is that entry point? How do we get that employer engagement out there? And my role is unique because I am one of two in this position, and I have the ability to facilitate all of our state and federal no-cost resources to our businesses that are here in Nevada. Being embedded within our regional RDA, Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, I also have the fortunate opportunity to speak with businesses that are looking to expand here from out of country, from out of state, or may already be here and ready to expand as well. So have that key part in our ability to retain our businesses. It's a lot to navigate, as you've all said, like who goes to where, when, why. By being embedded within Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, I have the ability to share our workforce resources in a snapshot. I get to talk about all of our different locations here, resources here, and get that word out early. We talked about marketing being a challenge and that word not being a word within our vocabulary as well. By being partnered within Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, they take on a part of that responsibility. They take the resources that are here, the existing DEETR, Employee NV, and everything else, and encompass it and get the word out. They have a space specifically on their website. They produce materials that highlight our workforce development resources, and they have that one-stop point of contact by allowing an introduction of myself to be made. I get to meet with businesses sometimes as early as 2 years out. So we talk about the different big businesses that come into town. One of our highlights being Haas Automotive, our manufacturing facilities. We were in conversations with them before the get-go, before it went public. So planting that seed, ensuring that they're aware of training providers, workforce resources, connecting them with their recruitment needs when they come here, understanding what their no-cost resources are. we were talking about employer engagement earlier. I think that's the big key, is just ensuring any business, yours, the businesses you support, the ones that you work with, the people that you stand to next to in our grocery stores, understand that there are no cost resources that need to be explored before they ever have a need to spend any money. And access is very easy. It's just that employeenv.gov. That's a best point of contact, because you can do the specific invitations, talk with Amy, she's going to be your go-to, connect with Milt, Ryan, they'll connect you to somebody. That employee in V is going to be the number one key, because that's going to connect them with resources for recruitment, ensuring that they understand our Silver State Works program, our work experience program that we have, state and federal on the job training, work opportunity tax credit, training grants, and just like the Nevada Works program down here with Workforce Connections, we also have our industry sector partnership that we put out there too. Nobody knows what they don't know, but we try. We do have a website that's specific to our business services program here in Southern Nevada. We have 2 different service providers that implement everything. So even though I'm within LVGEA, we do have, it's all employee in V, but we also have Equus and C2. So we have very robust numbers. Our Equus team, we currently have 12 members. Our C2 team, we currently have 7, constantly doing outreach. We are partnered within LVGEA, our Vegas chamber. We reach out to all the other chambers, some of the chambers that aren't really even chambers. They just call themselves chambers. You know what I mean? As well as our 5 municipalities. And we try to get those touch points within the 4 different counties that we serve. We make sure everybody is aware of our website first and foremost for that recruitment. That's what our Employee in V website looks like. It's a no-cost resource for our youth, those seeking employment, but most important, are businesses that are looking for support as well. Still also a lot of labor market data in here as well for your specific needs as well as others that are in the area. Ensuring that they're aware of different programs like Silver State Works so that they know that there are employer incentives that are out there. At present, this resource is waiting to be funded once again, but I like to plant the seed that the resource is there so that when the time comes, they know how to utilize it and how it can be a benefit. We have a work experience program that helps businesses with the kind hearts receive employees that are looking to expand on their knowledge base, figure out what they want to be when they grow up. It's a wonderful no-cost resource for them. On the job training, we spoke to skills gaps. We spoke to training resources that are out there. This is a program that will help close those skills gaps by incentivizing our businesses to take on a new hire that might have some additional training needs. I know I'm going very high level, very fast within this presentation, but the slideshow will be available. Tiffany does have a copy, as well as my contact information will be at the end. And our state also has our work opportunity tax credit. It's important that businesses utilize these resources that are out there and have the knowledge base of how to connect with them. So Elaine talked about how we have training resources for industry-specific needs. Some of our existing businesses that are already here within our industry may have employees that need to seek those trainings themselves, both for Nevada Works as well as for Workforce Connections. We have different training grants that come and go with, as they do, our business services team gets those points of contacts within our counties, our municipalities, our chambers, and so forth to get the word out. We've had enough training grants around for a while now that their success has now been shared amongst the businesses that have utilized them. And that's a win-win-win across the state itself. But this is when businesses have identified a training need. They want to upskill their current employees. They may need to backfill with new hires so we can pull in that recruitment effort in there. But helping them understand that these resources are there, how to access them, and then maintain that professional relationship to guide them through the process. We're all state employees that will utilize and facilitate these resources, so there's no bonus. there's no referral fees. There's no anything else. What it is the feel good. It's rewarding our businesses that are here, helping them maintain and upskill their current employees, and celebrating the businesses and the employees' success afterwards as well. We spoke about the industry sector partnership efforts up north, and we have those down here as well. We have the 7 industries highlighted on this sheet itself, but we currently have 300 plus. It says 200, but it's actually 300 plus active businesses that are working within this industry sector partnership. They meet once a year within their different industries to identify strengths, needs, and then our workforce board listens to those, considers what our current resources are out there for those trainings, and then identifies ways to expand or adjust accordingly. It really gives our local businesses a voice in their specific industry, and it's wonderful to see that population really heard. Not just, like they mentioned, not just the businesses attend, but also our training providers, our educational providers. It's everyone there for the greater good. It's wonderful. So, like I mentioned, I kept it very high level with the time that we had. I get to reiterate and celebrate everything that Ryan and Milt shared as well within our employee NV system. The same resources may be facilitated a little bit differently based on what our area's needs are. But I'll take some questions and try to respect that we have our end time coming up. Tony?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. This is Tony McAbee for the record. Had a question on the work opportunity tax credit. You said that is for individuals who have consistently faced barriers to employment. Would that include veterans, or maybe you can go in a little bit more
Yes, definitely. So it touch bases with, I believe it's 5, 6 specific populations. So those who are on any type of state assistance, housing, SNAP, TANF, unemployment insurance, are veterans as well as veteran spouses, and those that are our second chance population as well. So when a business happens to hire one of those from those specific populations, there is a tax credit that they're eligible for. Of course, it does have to be a W-2 employee to qualify for that resource.
Okay, so any veteran or a disabled veteran, or does it matter?
No, they can be a fully functioning veteran. Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, those within our disability population as well.
Okay. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it.
Tony, would you like me to ask somebody from Dieter to come in and talk about the work opportunity tax credit? It's actually it's a pretty interesting program, in my opinion, if you'd like to hear more about it in the future. Okay.
I certainly would. Yep. Thank you.
Perfect.
I'm sure there's probably more questions for Amy. Maybe if you could summarize them and send them to Tiffany. And Amy, I don't know if you're the right person, but I would like to address Mr. Galt's questions about the differences between the rural and urban areas. And you talked about the 4 counties, but I know that you're located within the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. I'd kind of like to make sure that we answer his question. I don't know if that's you, or I could reach out to Irene and find out who we can bring in to have that conversation, but maybe, and if I promise to have you at the top of the agenda next time, and we can answer some of those questions.
Yeah, Dieter does now have a currently assigned person that goes out there to represent them. I see a lot of the issues that George has had to navigate through his years of inconsistent support for that city, because it has ebbed and flowed, and without consistency, without those professional relationships established, a consistent touch point, it makes it even more challenging to get the word out, get them to take advantage of it, and to have that continued support to see how these resources can really be a benefit in the long term.
I'll reach out to Milt as well. Even though they're slightly different issues, I think Janelle and George is probably coming from the same bent, that that is a different population, different needs, definitely out in those rural. So
George Galt, for the record, real quick. Amy's one of the people in LVGEA who knows how to spell mesquite. She's been here.
Sounds good. We'll try to pick up that discussion if we've got follow-up questions in the next meeting. Does anybody have any final comments before I move to close this here meeting? All right, we'll close the meeting at 10:59. We made it by 1 minute, and I appreciate everybody. I really did like that conversation about the branding and whatnot. It's always been an issue, and it's something that I think that this committee could actually make a recommendation on, with support from Dieter and the local boards and whatnot, how we get there in the final game, and with all of those federal funding streams complicating the issue.
Marshall actually had a comment that I'm just going to read to you real quick.
Okay.
Sorry. She said, I just wanted to advise everyone that the GWDB is a member of NOB, who is hosting the event that Milt mentioned earlier. We had planned to share this information with the board at the next meeting and via email. Please note there is a registration fee, but members receive a discounted rate, so you can look for this information coming soon from Owen. That was the end of that.
I guess I probably need to ask for any additional public comment. Do we have anything out there?
Frankie Mason and Daniel Dong.
Hi, thank you.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Frankie Mason. I am the Employee NV Business Hub Manager in the South under Dieter. And I just want to publicly acknowledge Mr. George Galt's tirelessly championing of the rural areas. Today actually marks my 4-month anniversary in that role. And I just want to say thank you for starting the re-engagement. We have had an account manager out there now bi-weekly. We just had our first or supported the first apprentice trade conference, and we really want to, my commitment to Mr. Galt, I know how to spell mesquite. I've been here for over 30 years. And I will be sending you an update on some of the traction, and I promise we'll do a better job of keeping you in the loop on the outcomes of all the hard work that you have been laying down for these years. And maybe I can pick your brain on how we can start to make that magic happen in Laughlin, which I can also spell. And thank you. I just wanted to publicly state for without people like Mr. Galt in Nevada, I really don't know where we'd be. So thank you for your tireless efforts.
Thank you, and I look forward to talking with you. Anything
we have a Daniel with his hand up?
Yes, hi. Thank you for the opportunity. Daniel Dong for the record. I'm the supervisor at the Employee NV Business Hub in Reno, in the north side. And it came up earlier about how you can contact us. So I provided, although earlier, a little too early that I should have entered it into the chat, but you have my contact information as well as our office information. Feel free to reach out with any questions that you have. Our offices, both in the north and south, serve both the small businesses as well as large businesses. So we're very interested in being able to help you. So you have my information there. I thank you for the opportunity. And by the way, Mr. Galt, I knew how to spell mesquite as well. So just wanted to let you know that. Thank you for the time.
Kara?
Hi, good morning. For the record, my name is Kara Abe. I'm the ESD program chief for the Workforce Innovation Support Service Office with Dieter. And I just wanted to provide Tony and everybody else on the board or the committee a little bit more information about the WOTC program. The WOTC program is under Dieter, our workforce, or my office, I should say, our Workforce Innovation Support Service Office. And if a presentation is wanted by the subcommittee or for the full board, Tiffany does have my contact information, and I'd be happy to get that set up and scheduled for you.
Kara, could you also do the work opportunity tax credit, or have somebody with you at the same time, so we could talk about both of those at the same time?
Yes, we can. We can do the ones that Amy had referred to. We can do a Silver State Works, an OJT, or the WOTC, the work opportunity tax credit ones.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there any other public comment? All right. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Edward Stefano for
So
the record.
moved. This is Irene Bustamante Adams.
All right, I have a motion by
second.
Irene. Do we have a second?
Edward Estepano, second.
Edward to the second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. I thank you for everybody's time.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.